Welcome to this episode of the Simply Financial Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Calandra, and I want to increase your financial IQ with today's episode. I want to share with you some recent IRS data from the 2023-2024 filing years because it indicates some information about the breakdown of tax shares by earners in the United States. So to begin with, I want to tell you that the top 1% of earners in the United States, they account for approximately 40 to 42% of all federal income taxes paid. They certainly bear the largest burden of tax receipts in the country. When you look at the top 10% of earners, that group pays between 71 and 76% of all the total income taxes collected. To be in the top 10%, by the way, you need to earn $187,000 or more roughly. That's adjusted gross income. So top 10% of earners contribute 71 to 76% of total income taxes paid. Moving along, the top 25% of earners contribute nearly 89% of the total tax pool. The top 50% of earners, top half of earners in the United States, they are responsible as a group for roughly 97 to 98% of all federal income tax revenue. Top 50% of earners responsible for roughly 97 to 98% of all federal income tax revenue. That means if you do some math and you're following along, the bottom 50% of earners, they collectively only pay about 2 to 3% of the total federal income taxes collected. What this tells you is that the United States tax system is very progressive. The higher you are on the income spectrum, the more you are paying in dollars in taxes. What I want to share with you next is we have different tax brackets in the United States. Currently, the highest top rate is 37%. But you all know from preparing your taxes, there's various deductions, there's giveaways, there's loopholes. There's all different things that go into figuring out what your tax liability is. So a lot of people don't pay the 37%. So what I want to share with you is, this comes again from the same data release from the IRS, is that the average tax rate for the top 1% is 26%. So that means on average, if somebody's earning $1 million, they're paying $260,000 in taxes. The top 10%, remember, that's 187,000 or more roughly in adjusted gross income. Their average tax rate's about 20.3%. So somebody making $200,000 just making themselves eligible for the top 10%, $200,000, roughly $40,000 of tax liability to the federal government. The average rate for the top 25% is 17%. And for the top 50%, it's about 15%, just below that. For the bottom 50% of taxpayers, their average tax rate is a very low 3.1%. They are not contributing much in terms of dollars on a household basis, and their rate of 3% is extremely modest. So that's what I wanted to share with you today. I find this data very interesting. And if you overlay your own political views, depending on how you tend to vote and how you tend to think about public policy, I think a key question is, when a politician says the rich are not paying their fair share, do you believe that these numbers reinforce and provide adequate evidence that that is a fair and true statement? Or do you come down where I tend to do, and that is, the rich not paying their fair share is a little misleading. There's more to it, but by looking at these numbers, with the top 10% contributing roughly 75% of total revenue collected, it's hard to think that that statement, the rich are not paying their fair share, is a fair way to look at it. It's quite misleading, I think. But I'll leave that up to you. Not everybody shares my opinion, but I did want to share with you this important information, give you a good framework to think about tax receipts, tax revenue, and the U.S. tax code, and who is paying taxes. I appreciate you listening to this episode. I will be back with you on the next episode of the Simply Financial podcast very soon. Have a great day.
The views expressed are not necessarily the opinion of Osaic Wealth, Inc., and should not be construed directly or indirectly as an offer to buy or sell any securities mentioned herein. Investing is subject to risks, including loss of principal invested. Past performance is not a guarantee of future results. No strategy can assure a profit nor protect against loss. Please note that individual situations can vary. Therefore, the information should be relied upon when coordinated with individual professional advice. Please note, the information being provided is strictly as a courtesy. When you link to any of the websites provided here, you are leaving this website. We make no representation as to the completeness or accuracy of information provided at these websites. Nor is the company liable for any direct or indirect technical or system issues or any consequences arising out of your access to or your use of third-party technologies, websites, information, and programs made available through this website. When you access one of these websites, you are leaving our website and assume total responsibility and risk for your use of the websites you are linking to. Securities and advisory services are offered through Osaic Wealth, Inc., member FINRA, SIPC. Insurance services offered through Elliott Wealth Management Services, LLC, not affiliated with Osaic Wealth, Inc.